El liberalismo es una corriente del pensamiento político que surge en la Europa de la Ilustración para reivindicar los derechos y libertades del individuo. Los liberales defendemos una sociedad de ciudadanos libres e iguales ante la ley, con derechos y obligaciones, sin dogmas ni tabúes, que apuestan radicalmente por la centralidad. En España, las ideas liberales han sido clave para nuestra democracia. Sin embargo, su suerte y sus resultados han sido dispares. Cuando las crisis azotan y la polarización domina el debate público, los ciudadanos buscan refugio en la rabia, el miedo o el pasado. Aún así, y a pesar de los obstáculos, las ideas liberales siempre han encontrado el camino para resurgir, en nuestro país y en toda Europa. Por eso, hemos hablado con muchos de los grandes protagonistas liberales europeos. Nuestro objetivo no es otro que poner rostro y voz a historias de éxito y de fracaso, proyectos que tropiezan, pero que también vuelven a levantarse, en distintas latitudes, idiomas y acentos. Solo hay una receta para renovarse y ser útil a la sociedad, y no es otra que escuchar a los ciudadanos para reconectar con ellos, tener la audacia de cuestionarlo todo y la convicción de saber por qué eres necesario para tu país. La convicción, al fin y al cabo, de renovar el liberalismo. El kilómetro cero del liberalismo europeo es sin duda el partido ALDE, la Alianza de los Liberales y Demócratas Europeos. El partido ALDE se fundó hace casi 50 años y reúne a partidos liberales de más de 60 países de todo el mundo. Desde sus oficinas en Bruselas, el corazón de Europa, han visto de todo en distintas latitudes, países e idiomas. Partidos liberales nacer, crecer, vencer, hundirse y hasta desaparecer para luego renacer. De esa perspectiva que dan el tiempo y la distancia, hablamos con su secretario general, Jacob Moroza-Rasmussen, un político danés tranquilo y reflexivo que viaja casi 200 días al año y conoce como nadie la historia del liberalismo en Europa. Hello, Jacob Moroza-Rasmussen. We are here in the ALDE party headquarters. If you see the last 10 years, the results in Europe, and you see that since 2004, S&D and EPP, every new electoral process they face, they go down and down and down. But still you see a lot of liberal movements in Europe that they appear, they disappear. They appear, or they go up, they go to the national parliament with huge number, and then they disappear from the national parliament. Why that's happening?
I think this has something to do with a more general trend across European societies that people are unhappy with the establishment, with the status quo. And in many countries, you've had a duopoly of a conservative and a socialist party in the past. And that has started to be broadened out a bit more, just like the case in Spain, also with Ciudadanos taking a large share of the votes there, but the same in other countries as well. It's essentially people want something to change with the old system, if you want to look at it this way. But partly it's also, quite frankly, some of the old established parties doesn't always renew themselves.
Why is this that so many ALDE parties, they have such a short time span of success?
Look, at the end of the day, politics, sometimes things are just going very easy for you, and sometimes you get headwind, right? I mean, and it's when things are looking tough that you see the result of having done the hard work. And nobody just gets 10, 15, 20% of the votes out of nothing. You need to do your homework, do the research, talk to the voters, talk to the focus groups, try to put a strategy in place, communication, and then you have to execute on it. And that is many hours. At the end of the day, people flock to the new thing if they promise something better, right? And that means they move away from you if you're no longer the new thing. Unless you've done the homework, unless you have your communication plan. Figure out what is your core values, what matters to your voters. Don't do it on gut feeling, do the research. But you also need to be able to restrict yourself, because this is where a lot of parties who are in trouble get into more trouble. Because they start shooting all over the place and the voters have no idea what you stand for, because you feel a little bit of everything. If you want to connect to voters, stick to a few, one, maybe two, if you go completely crazy, 3 issues that you need to be known for.
And they're going to create an also polarizing effect, because it's always better that 6 or 7% if you're in a really low electoral turnout. love your ideas and want to vote for you, and even if the remaining 93 hate you, but you're going to stick to those ideas that 6-7% they would really want to put on the public opinion.
Exactly, right? and this is also a valid point what you're bringing there, because you also need to figure out what is your ambition level, at least on the short and medium term. I mean, sure, if you think you're in a position to reach for 25-30%, you have to be a different kind of people's party where you have to have a broader thing. But if your aim is to go for 6-7-10%, then stick to that core that people will love you for, that where you can differentiate from the others, because otherwise you became the same, just a different nuance of gray.
When you're going up, it's easier, right? You're having tons of people coming in, your ideas are always generating a good impact, but on the downsizing is when these new movements, they suffer a lot. Because a lot of members start jumping out, a lot of representatives start jumping out.
Essentially, you need to keep staying on message.
How do you get to that message? When you're on the downsizing that you cannot react publicly to everything that happens?
You do research. Research. Basically, make a strategy, stick to it. Because at the end of the day, if you follow a strategy, you will get the results. If you're clear in your message. They vote for you because you are going to help with whatever, make a federal Europe, fixing the economy, lowering unemployment, raising the pension, whatever the issue is. In that
GTVI, right? Yeah, there are many issues.
All these kind of things. But they need to associate you as their best champion for doing that. And if you are going all over the place, instead of having a sharp profile on these things, on one or two things, why would they vote for you if it's things going down? Nobody wants to vote for be with somebody where it's going down. Everybody wants to be with the success, with the winner, right?
At the end of the day, people, what do they vote? They vote a person or they vote a movement?
I wish I could tell you a movement, but in most cases they vote for what that person stands for, and at least with new parties. I mean, because the party leader, the founder of the movement or whatever, Macron in France as an example as well, is the ambassador. He is the personification of what the value of this movement is, right? And if you take that out, it can be difficult if you haven't, let's say, prepared the organization and the voters for that we are still the same just without this person, right?
This is a good point, because how the parties, the new parties on the liberal spectrum, that they are born surrounding a really strong political figure, how they recover when that figure is not any longer there, you know? What they should do, because that then they should rebrand, they should change, they should...
Well, you don't necessarily need to change and rebrand, but you need to make sure that the party itself and the people itself and the voters knows that the party is more than just that one person. And that requires that you put other people front and center sometimes. That is not just the party leader, that you make sure that you're seen more at the right stage, you as a team, that you have more than one person then, so you're not dependent on that one leader.
I have also seen that in some liberal parties, they compete with other parties that are difficult to beat in those areas. I'm going to put you the example of the Green parties. Mm-hmm. And we take all these environmental policies that we're pushing, and liberals are very strong on this. We want, you know, to do a strong change and impact, so we stop this climate change. But at the same time, we have always in mind the economic sustainability of our societies and our economies. But then I see a lot of liberal parties that they try to compete on being greener than the Green Party, that they were always gonna
They will always lose that battle, just like you would always lose the battle if you want to be tougher on immigration than the anti-immigration parties. I mean, you will always lose this, because even if you move in that direction, the others already have the image and they can just move 5% further. What we've seen working a few places is don't go for the hardcore activists in this if there's already a Green Party that's their home or something else. But go for the voters who are starting to have the same concern about climate. I mean, take a look at what happened in the German election, right? Sure, the Green Party gained something, but not as much, because amongst others, FDP also started to acknowledge,
FDP, the German Liberal Party.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't sell themselves as you know the Green Party in Germany, but they said, of course we acknowledge that there are challenges here with the climate. Of course we need to fix it, but our plan is to fix it this way, so we also ensure better jobs and a transition of the economy so we're ready for the future. They want to hear that, look, we acknowledge and we will do something about the climate change, but we'll do it in a way so we won't all lose our jobs and so on.
Right now, if you see political fights or struggles among different parties, I think we're in an asymmetric kind of conflict, because you see populism and nationalism that they say whatever, and they have great communication impacts. We are the opposite. We are more brained kind of parties.
We are overthinking it sometimes.
At the end of the time, if we don't fight on the same electoral terms, we are going to be always on the losing side. Shall the liberals be a little bit more creative on how they manage and they communicate their political goals to try somehow to compete with these populist and nationalist movements?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to be, because the one thing you should never do in politics is to be lured into the debate in a frame set by another party, because the other party would always win that one. You have to find what is your communication message to the voters. What is it you want to be their champion for? Don't talk about climate on the terms that the Greens keep talking about or yelling about. As I said, in the case of the German liberals, was we need to make this transition, not just because it's good for the climate change, but also it's very good for economy, right? It creates a lot of jobs. It can be very beneficial for us as a country. You change the frame completely there. You are not talking based on climate, but climate is a side effect that people acknowledge it's good to get in there.